Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Get ready for truth and common sense. Join the Framers View on Rumble.com to be part of the chat. Be sure to click join and follow to help keep the Framer on the air. Watch the replay on theframersview.com or Rumble.com.
My software. I love electronics and technology and IT. I always thought IT meant it, but it turns out it's not. Okay, I'm just kidding. Well, it's Monday, and every Monday I'm a little nervous about starting the show again. You know, we have these changes that occur every week, and during the weekend, I'm looking at stuff in the news, and I'm just stunned, to say the least. Well, first of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for being to the Framers View. Appreciate you being here. Of course, as you know, yesterday was Mother's Day, and of course, we have a special statement from a Mother's Day person that was at the show. Hey, why would I get my wife a Mother's Day gift? She's not my mom, says a dead man. But what can I tell you? If there's a holiday you don't want to miss, you know, being a birthday, an anniversary, those are bad enough. But when you forget Mother's Day, if you have kids, probably not a good thing. I'm just saying. Man, we've got so much going on, and there's so many opportunities to let you know what's really going on. I spend more time on the liberal networks and liberal press and all those type of things, trying to disprove things that I say. And honestly, it's not working out that way. Today, of course, Trump is in court again. Michael Cohen is doing his thing. From what I can tell, it's not going really well. You know, you've had Stormy Daniels on, you've had Michael Cohen now on, all of these people. I mean, the evidence, even with Bill Maher, who is by no means a conservative, where he was pointing out in his show where Stormy Daniels was on his show, and she said, you know, I wasn't coerced. There was nothing bad. Nothing bad happened. I don't know why I had sex with him. She claimed she had sex, but before that, she claimed she didn't have sex. But now she's claiming she did have sex. So I don't know. I'm guessing there probably was sex. Okay, let's just get that out on the table. But at the same time of that, you know, you've got Cohen, who's just blathering with his stuff continuously. It's a traveling roadshow. It really is. So we're going to talk about a bunch of things today. Talk about throwing out judges. Yeah, I did say throwing out judges. Colonization. You may not know why in the hell I would bring that up, but I think there's some reason to do it. The Israeli war, what's going on with that, what Trump's doing, and of course the Trump rallies that were stunning this weekend. You probably saw it. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, I want to talk about hiding documents and deleting evidence. You know, there has been so many pieces in the puzzle in the last probably, I'm going to say 4 or 5 months that have been coming out that is really disappointing for America. I'm talking about for America. I'm not talking about for us that might be Republicans or for you Democrats that are watching the show that you might be looking at that. But what is occurring is just stunning. So I want to go back to when the FBI went to Mar-a-Lago. And as soon as the Mar-a-Lago investigation and the SWAT teams that went in, and of course the lawyer for Trump that wasn't even allowed inside, which just doesn't happen. It's not supposed to. And so I think it was she was not allowed to be in there. You think to yourself, why would that be? Well, okay. I was suspicious from the beginning because I've been following this. A lot of people would go, well, first of all, they wouldn't even know that a lawyer didn't get in. Secondly, after you found out the lawyer didn't get in, you'd go, why would that be? And then the third one would be when you see the evidence, when the FBI quickly put out the evidence. By the way, when the FBI does something that's legitimate, nobody sees it. Everything's investigated, everything is buttoned up and make sure that it's all correct. And then you refer to the Department of Justice. That's the way the game works. But no, they had pictures of the top secret documents, in his room where the documents were, and they were all laid out. Well, number one, if they were moved at all, they're not supposed to do that. But secondly, we now find out that was staged. Staged. Really? Yeah. So that was staged. Okay, so that's one of the issues. Let's go to another one. Let's talk about the issue of January 6th. We have January 6th, the investigation, which is the televised sitcom by the J6 investigation crew, which was most egregious act of not allowing the other side to put out their case. They weren't doing anything other than just trying to crush Trump. Didn't work, but that's what they wanted to do. But there's innocent people in jail right now that were led in by people that were working for the other side and encouraging them to go in. We know that because we've seen the videos. Okay. Now we've found out that the Liz Cheneys of the world were taking the evidence that was in the Jan 6 investigation, and they were deleting those files when they were asked for by the House in the investigation they're doing on January 6th. Oh, it's gone. We deleted it. We didn't think it was important. Was it exculpatory? Don't know, do we? Don't know. It was just kept out of the case. And nobody was allowed to talk on the other side. If that isn't fascism, communism combination, I guess we call it fascism, so as Biden would. But it's just not right. And right doesn't have anything to do with it anymore. But now we find out, Epoch Times did a story, and I'm not stunned. It just proves what we already knew. But here's a story that really is disconcerting. And the case goes on and nobody really brings it up and says, hey, do you know these things were done? Now, maybe the defense will. Maybe the defense will go out there and say, hey, well, look, we've got exculpatory evidence possibly. We don't know because we didn't get this information. If that's happening, if that's occurring today, again, like January 6th, like the Mar-a-Lago investigation by the FBI, all the things that are changed and deleted that's going on, can this continue to happen? The answer is, of course, it can. But more importantly, how can we look, I'm just some guy that lives in my house that does a show called Framers View. You're somebody that's on my show watching it. There's other people that work as sanitary people, sanitation cleanup people that are janitors, that are workers in offices all over the country, that if they just screw up once, they got to worry that if the truth that they have is never allowed to be brought forward, what happens to us? What happens to us? You know, the Nazi and Hitler, they took the press out of the picture. They said, here's our piece of paper. Here's what you're going to say. No, we're not going to do that. Well, we'll kill you. And of course they did. And then everybody falls into line. Well, is that going to happen here? Probably not. Because we have just a smidgen of control with the House and the Senate. Well, maybe not the Senate, but the House can say, whoa, 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 this can't happen. And the FCC doesn't really control cable TV like the regular network broadcast networks are. People are confused by that. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Newsmax, they're not really within the same realm as broadcast television that's under FCC rules. Now, there's some FCC guidelines that are above cable stations, but it's a little different. But there's enough power with the cable that they can't knock them off. But the point is, this stuff just keeps happening. And what happens if, because we're coming down to the wire on the election, what happens if the Democrat side decides we got to shut this down? That's pretty disconcerting. That could be a real problem for people who want to know the truth. And the truth, you know, they jokingly say the truth shall make you free. Well, that's true. The truth shall make you free. But what if we can't get the truth out? And that is the big concern here. If we can't get the truth out, we're in trouble. Today, I'm going to show you something that happened this weekend, though, that supports my shows from yet last week. When I was talking about the Democrats are starting to crack a little bit in the press. Slowly but surely, we're starting to get things happening that are really becoming a concern, even for the Democrat side. Now, I will tell you, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Watch this from Fareed Zakaria. He's total liberal, total left wing, but he made some comments on his show Sunday, this weekend. I think it's on Sunday. That was really stunning. Watch this and we'll come back.
No denying that the party seems more openly divided than it has been in decades. Only 33% of Americans said they approved of Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, which is now opposed both by people who think he is too soft and people who think he is too hard on Israel. Meanwhile, Republicans seem to be uniting behind Trump. Whatever opposition he faced in the primaries has largely melted away. And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment.
Wow. That last 4 seconds was powerful. He actually said, I doubt this case would have come forward if the defendant was not Donald Trump. You know, when that can happen, when those things occur, like those kind of honesties pop out, you compare that, contrast it to all of the things that have been happening, let's say back in 23, just months ago. I don't think they would have said that. I don't think they'd have brought that forward. But I think this case and things like evidence being deleted January 6th, staging of FBI cases. I mean, the press, as obnoxious as they may be, will eventually realize maybe that, you know what, There's nothing that says Biden won't dig in with his administration and his people to our press and say, stop saying the truth. I want you to say this. They did that with Facebook. They did it with Twitter, X now. They did that. We have evidence of that. There's testimony of that. So if that can continue, if that can just keep going on and on and on, how do we get control of this other than an election, which is 178 days away? It's 177 days away. It's not far away by standards of what we need to have happen and how we have to change things and how we have to get the public to recognize what's going on. I mentioned last week I have a real true friend that is, he's a conservative, but he hates Trump. He's one of those. And I wouldn't say he's a never Trumper because I don't see him voting for Biden. I certainly don't think he'll vote for Kennedy, although he said he might vote for Kennedy to keep, either one of them from getting elected. And I'm thinking, Kennedy won't have enough votes to stop either one of the other two. We know that. That's not going to happen. But these are people that have to know what's going on and then have to get over what somebody says. I don't care what you say. I really don't. It's the deeds. What have you done for me today? It's kind of like the salesman that goes up to a sales manager and tells him how wonderful he is because, he sold 5 cars yesterday. And the sales manager says, yeah, but what have you done for me today? For me today. What did you do? Well, that's kind of the same situation. We have to look at what people have done. And we know we're going to talk about a couple of things that's been said that I want to make clear won't happen. Okay? But MSNBC is in a panic, an unbelievable, uncontrollable, what are we going to do panic. And that panic comes from something called we're seeing us lose because they don't want Trump in there under any circumstances for any reason. At the beginning of this piece that I'm going to show you, and I want to remind you of this, there's a guy named Michael Steele that's going to speak at the beginning. He's on MSNBC. He's a liberal. And I want to remind you this because of this. I've talked so many times about the fact that the Republican Party never stands side by side on anything. In a way, I respect that because I want people to use their own minds instead of just being lockstep soldiers. But when there's things so important that you recognize that you have to protect America over your next election, that you have to give up your little idiosyncrasies to be able to support the party. Michael Steele, who was the RNC, the Republican National Committee chair years ago, is now on MSNBC, and he's a liberal. I kind of knew that when he was doing that. But we just keep doing this and hurting ourselves and our party. So the other day, there was a decision on the documents case, and that was just over the top for the liberals. Let's watch that and a couple other things they're talking about. And this is about judges. Here we go from MSNBC.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas delivered a harsh rebuke to his critics on Friday, indicating that so-called reckless people in Washington bombed his reputation, saying, quote, "The nastiness and the lies, it's just incredible." Justice Thomas has been accused of failing to follow a rule of ethics while sitting on the bench and has faced widespread criticism for his wife's involvement in the effort to overturn the 2020 election. Andrew Weissman and Anthony Coley are back with us.
Andrew Weissman, I want to connect the dots on the story we were just talking about and this story and help me understand something that I assume that a lot of our viewers want to understand too, which is you can't just remove Thomas and you can't just remove Cannon, and yet there have been these effective efforts to remove.
Okay. First of all, remove Cannon because she said there's a bunch of documents that now we have to investigate. There's new evidence that we now have to investigate to see if we're even going to continue. And Justice Thomas, because his wife happens to be a Republican, oh my God, what'll we do about that? And so they have to get rid of these judges. This is what she's saying. And of course, you've got the perfect Andrew Weissman who's going to answer this. By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt videos. Usually I don't do this, but this deserves some conversation and some commentary in the middle. So we'll continue.
Yeah, so that is I think that is a huge question that lots of people who are not lawyers, and frankly, even I have, because there is a real inconsistency. So first, let's just take Judge Cannon. A lot of people who are not lawyers are thinking, can't you be removed from either seeming to be too partisan or just not being competent enough?
Partisan? Are they talking about the jackass on the hush money case in New York? His own daughter is raising tens of millions of dollars on the Trump hush money case. Are you kidding me? So this is the just blind push the lies and ignore the other facts. So we'll continue
to handle this case. And the answer to that is, unfortunately, no. Just being incompetent is not enough. Just having sort of a delayed schedule is not enough. And if you think about sort of what you'd want the law to be, you don't want some just because one side or the other is disappointed in a ruling, you can't just say, oh, I want a new judge. So the law is very, very difficult to meet that standard. And so I just don't think there's enough to remove her.
Think about that. There's not enough to remove Cannon from the case. This case that we're talking about with Trump, his documents, the whole thing that's going on with Jack Smith, and they just keep pulling stuff out of the hat. And there's a judge. Now, Cannon was appointed by Trump. Okay. Every one of these federal judges have been appointed by some president. That's the way it works. It doesn't just magically happen that you get a new black robe and you go to the big house to be the judge in the big cases. It doesn't work that way. So you can say, well, she's a Trump appointee. So is Kavanaugh, and so is Gorsuch, and all of those people that were appointed. And guess what? They have found different evidence and judged against what we wanted, even though Trump appointed them. So are we supposed to say they should be removed? In most cases, they're right. I've been stunned on some of them. It's the way they see it. There has to be a point where you go, okay, this is the final line. This is the Supreme Court. When everything comes apart, when wheels are flying off the vehicle, cars are slamming down into other cars, everything's coming apart, people are screaming, everybody's dying, everybody's pulling out their guns and shooting somebody, the Supreme Court has to come in and make a decision. That's the way it works, guys. That's the way it works. Judges make decisions. There's appellate courts for judges' decisions. When the appellate court goes against you, you can go to the Supreme Court. There's Supreme Courts in each state. There's U.S. Supreme Court that has 9 people that do their job. So if we're going to keep saying, well, we got to get rid of this judge, if she's wrong, if Cannon is wrong, they can appeal it. It can go to the Supreme Court. It won't, because they know that she's right. He said, delay the trial. It's not delaying the trial. It is delaying the trial, but it's not just to delay the trial for the hell of it. The trial is being delayed for one simple reason. There's stuff here. We got to know if we're going to even continue with this case. And of course, the immunity case we'll talk about in a minute. The immunity part of it is a big deal also. So let's continue.
The problem with the Supreme Court is that until they recently passed a sort of toothless ethics code for internally by the Supreme Court themselves, where there's no, by the way, if you violate that, there's no obvious ramification. There is no mechanism to remove a justice or to even just recuse them from a case. They have to decide it on their own. The reason Justice Thomas is in, I think, such hot water is the idea that he's sitting on an immunity case where his wife was at the ellipse.
Okay. He's sitting on a case where his wife was at the ellipse. Okay. First of all, so she was there. So what? That doesn't matter. Whether she was there or not, she's a Republican. And if she wasn't there, they'd come up with some other reason. They've tried to get him out of there because she has spoken up at any time. America, you're allowed to speak. I'm on Rumble because I'm allowed to speak. And the people that are watching this show are allowed to watch this show because you're allowed to watch this show. And if that's taken away from you, do I need to tell you how pissed off you're going to be? The more I talk about this, the more angry I get. It just drives me insane that this just keeps going on and on and on with these liberal lunatics. Well, how do we get rid of these judges? Let's watch the last of this.
On January 6th at that speech and was communicating with the chief of staff about the Biden crime family. How that doesn't create an appearance of impropriety, which is one of the standards for not sitting on a case, is beyond me.
It's beyond him. All right. So, first of all, the videos are out there of what occurred at the Capitol when people were going in. First of all, they shouldn't have done it. Absolutely should not have done it. But when you're encouraged to go in, and now we know that these were people that were brought in by the Democrat Party to look like a bunch of what they call lunatic conservatives, right-wingers, and come on, let's go. They even opened the doors for them. If that can continue to be the story and you don't know the truth, just Google Jan 6th videos. They're out there. They've been trying to get them off. They may be gone now, but people have them. Just like people have Hunter Biden's laptop information. They've got it. Everybody knows what's going on. But you that's watching this show and Neil Frame that does the Framers View on Rumble are able to do this because the Constitution says we have a right to speak. I'm not telling anybody to go out and shoot anybody, to beat anybody up, to do anything that would be unconstitutional. I'm telling you the facts. And as I always say, if I tell you something that's not true, okay, chat to me. If I tell you something that's not true, write a letter to me at neil@theframersview.com. I'm a big boy. If I'm wrong, next show, I'll tell you I'm wrong. Or I'll tell you why I still believe I'm right. And maybe I'm not. Maybe you have a different opinion. I've never known anybody that's always had the exact same opinion for a lifetime if it's a big issue. As we grow, we become more intelligent. As we grow, we learn new things. As we watch things that happen, I remember when Nixon got his complete mess blown up. That was really ugly. And he finally just resigned because he knew there's no way to get out of this. He was a little different. Probably one of the best foreign policy presidents we've ever had. Next to Reagan, next to Trump, to be honest with you. And like the peace accords that was done by Jared Kushner and Trump. All of these things happen, and conditions and situations happen and change and make people do things differently than they did before. But it isn't going to always be the case that lying and cheating can continue without me or other people out there saying, wait a minute, take a look at this. That's so important. So the other day, I saw two shows. One was The View, which is always a bunch of lunatics, but there was a news story. They were talking about how they're concerned. I think it was on CNN. They're concerned that if Trump gets in office, he's going to shut down the press. He's going to shut down everybody. He's going to just kill it. Well, first of all, if that were to happen, you'd have to start early in your term to be able to get anything accomplished. Nothing happens that fast because Congress would get involved. The House would get involved. The Senate would get involved. I can guarantee you the Democrats would go nuts. The press would go crazy. It would just happen, right? So you could say, well, let's say Nikki Haley, if she got into office and they said she was going to do that. You don't know. You have nothing to compare it to. Nothing. Well, we do with Trump. We do know that Trump was in office for 4 years, and all he did was good things for America. He stopped things from happening. He got more people working. He had gas prices low. He had the interest rates low. He had all those things going on. There was nothing that was going on about colonization or control over the press. So I had to take a look because this colonization idea is kind of crazy because somehow they think that Trump will come in, and with the Israeli war that's going on, which is probably still going to be going on when Trump takes office in January, I would guess. If that's the case, they think that they will do that. He will take it over, and he'll go into Israel, and he'll make a deal that hey, we're going to save you, but you're going to become part of America. No, I don't think so. So here's the thing. British and U.S. colonization. The British Empire in 1913, 412 million people lived under the control of the British Empire. 23% of the world's population at that time. 23% of the world's population. It remains the largest empire in human history, and at the peak of its power in 1920, it covered an astonishing 13.7 million square miles. That's close to a quarter of the world's land area. So the U.S. takeovers, following the Spanish-American War, the Spanish colonies of Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines were given to the United States in a transfer of colony authority. Puerto Rico and Guam are still American territories today. Now, the reason that the Cuba and Philippine control continued is their worry about what Japan might do. In case you don't know it, Cuba, of course, went through the missile crisis in the 60s, and the Philippines, being right smack in the middle of everything that was Japan and China, they were worried, but not anymore. So today, Puerto Rico and Guam are still American territories. That's fine. So take it to Trump. His country takeovers in his 4 years as president. Countries did he take over? No. How about elections? Did he take over the elections? Did he stop the elections? Did he say, no, I'm going to be president forever and do that? Did he somehow change the Constitution so that he could be a dictator? No. Who says he's going to be a dictator? Did he go after, by the way, non-supporters? Nope. This is the paranoia due to lack of belief that anything could be good other than what they believe. So colonization keeps coming up. This is their new little tweak. Tweak, 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 tweak. They not tweet, tweak, 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 tweak. They're trying to get your brain to think when Trump gets in, if he gets in, and by the way, there's nothing based on the polls, there's nothing based on crowds that tells me that Trump's definitely getting in. And you know why? Because the election isn't over. That's why. Don't get too huffy. Don't get too positive about what could happen, because I can tell you this. There's nothing that says that we're going to get him into the office. I worry about the election. Am I election denier? Yeah, I set up the night of the 2020 election and watched those cameras that they clearly didn't know were still showing, where people were moving boxes and changing things and doing things that when an election closes down at night, everybody leaves and security watches it. That's what's supposed to happen. It didn't happen that way. And then miraculously, when Trump was up, for example, in Pennsylvania, when they started the deal again the next morning, he was down. Oh, how did that happen? Now, do I have proof of that? No. But I will tell you when I'm suspicious, and I'm not going to tell you I know it happened, but use your brain. Just try it out. See how that works. Use your brain of what's going on. Just think. So we get past that, and then I have to get into Israel, because Israel and Gaza and what's going on there is so messed up. And just like Afghanistan, when Biden did his wonderful exit from Afghanistan, what a mess that was. And poor 13 families that lost their loved ones. And now this idiot is creating more trouble. But before I show you this slide that I want to show you, I want to remind you that Gaza, the Gaza Strip was set up for Palestinians. And they call it the Gaza Strip, guys. It's not Palestine. When they set that up, that was for the people of Palestine to have a permanent place. And then Hamas came in. And of course, they're terrorists. And they took over and they started killing people and murdering children and families. And well, guess what happens when that happens and nobody can stop it? They have to go with the Hamas people. They have to, or they're going to die. So Palestinians are now armed and fighting against Israel with Hamas. We know that. Is it all of them? No. Are all Democrats idiots? No, I don't think. The only thing I think about idiots and Democrats is you either know you're wrong and you're going to vote for Biden because you hate Trump, or you're not informed. And in both of those cases, it's probably information that keeps you from making the final decision. But back to the Palestinians. I'm ADD, sorry. The Palestinians. So this story you're not going to do that anymore. You're not going to be able to have these weapons because Rashida Tlaib and all of the idiots that are on that crew are pushing him so hard, and the people from the outside that are pushing him so hard, and that's not excusing him in any way, shape, or form, but he is jello. He is not a rock. Trump is a rock. Trump makes stupid decisions sometimes. Back in his first term, I don't think that'll happen again. He's learned his lesson. But Biden has no backbone, none. So he keeps pushing Israel to not attack. Then what? Well, then Hamas just goes after it. Hamas goes after people and kills people in Israel, and nobody cares about that. They don't care. Nobody talks about the hostages. Nobody. I don't hear anybody talking about that. A few, but so few it doesn't matter. People have forgotten there's hostages. I've talked to people that they're like, no, those hostages were released. No, they weren't. They weren't. Why do you have, okay, I'm going to help you with this. Why do you take hostages when you're starting a war? Anybody got an answer to that that's watching the show? Why do you take hostages when you start a war, when you attack? Come on. The answer is simple, my friend. It's blowing in the wind song. The reason they do that is to hold the people that they attacked from attacking them, because you want to save the hostages. You take hostages when you want to take something from someone. You take hostages when you want to take money from rich people, when you're a kidnapper. It's the same thing. If you don't get that, if you don't understand that, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. It's a fact. It's a plain, simple fact. So hostages, war, fight. We have to fight for Israel and give them the weapons before we have to go in to a senseless war. This war would not have occurred if they would have done things way before this happened. Were they attacked unexpectedly? Kind of, sort of, but not really. We knew, everybody knew in the intelligence community that Hamas was planning things. They knew that Iran was supporting and feeding weapons into the Hamas, into Gaza. They knew that. Why do you do that? Because you're preparing for war. That's what Russia did. Russia came to the border of Ukraine. You know, you get that, right? This is what occurs, and we keep seeing it happen, and nobody is saying, stop. This is going to happen. So we're not giving weapons to Israel, and Netanyahu is not going to back off. He's just not. He's not, and it's going to continue. So I got a video to show you that I think is a difficult video for me to show, because somebody on the Republican side that I get really tired of is Lindsey Graham. I like some of the things he says, but he's a warmonger to beat the band. But every once in a while, he says something that really makes sense. You know, we can't always be stupid, right? So if we can't always be stupid, this is an example with Lindsey Graham. He was in an interview. Watch this. We'll talk about it on the other side.
My problem is not with the weapons that Israel is using. My problem is with the tactics that Hamas is using, and the idea that America would not send a nickel of aid, echoed by a United States senator when all the Jews are trying to be killed by radical Islamic groups, tells us where we're at as a nation. The Republican Party is with Israel without apology.
Well, historians would say, why is it okay for Reagan to do it and not President Biden? But let me ask you about
why is it okay okay?
deal.
Well, can I say this? Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Senator, again, military officials say
Whatever
the
you have to do.
technology has changed. But let me ask you about how all
These
of this
military
could
officials.
Yeah, full of crap. And I forgot to not turn off the picture there when they showed a picture of Biden. Yeah, he's right. If you are attacked, you have to come back. It just, you have to. You know, did you ever see a boxing match where a guy comes in and at the beginning of the fight and he hits him and the guy goes and sits in the corner because he got hit? No. You've been attacked. It's a planned attack in a boxing match. But it's the same thing. Some country attacks you and kills your people. And American people in the case of Israel. And American people and innocent people from all over the world that were at that festival. And people's heads were cut off, literally. There's videos of that. Because Hamas is proud of that. They did that, and we had to help Israel respond. Biden says, we're with you. Now he's saying, I'm not with you if you're going to go back at Hamas. Who is this guy? Who is this guy that continues to do these kind of things and just not care? Not care over and over and over again. I don't know what to tell you about that, other than we have politicians that are pushing on Biden to do the wrong thing. We have communist, fascist politicians in the Democrat House, and I would suggest even Schumer as a senator leader in the Senate, that are allowing things to happen. First of all, should have never happened, and tell them not to respond. So you know what's happening from that? This is an interesting story. So this came across, and I thought I would share it with you. Jewish voters moving right in 2024. Republican Donald Trump won 26% compared to the average of 23.75%, which you may say, well, that's only 2.2% for the 4 previous GOP presidential candidates. Well, that's a pretty good percentage when you consider that. President Trump increased his share of the Jewish vote by an additional 4 points to 30% in 2020. Nevada has the largest Jewish voting population on a per capita basis, which is interesting. I didn't know that. While Pennsylvania has the highest number, then Wisconsin, a strategist said. So it's not just New York. It's not just New Jersey. It's not just where a big share of the Jewish people live. There's a lot of Jewish people across the country that are watching this and saying, whoa, wait a minute, what in the hell is happening here? How can this be continuing? How can we continue to vote Democrat? These are Jews saying this. Can continue to vote Democrat when the Democrats do not support our feelings, our beliefs, not support Jewish state, the Jewish state, the Israeli state. The Israelis, man, you talk about being in a hostile environment. You've got Egypt on one side, you've got Iraq, you've got Syria, you've got all of these just crazy people that hate Israel, hate them. And Israel is a powerful state who's created a defense that's beyond what most people have ever seen. So how do they do it? Well, we gave them weapons, but now we're holding back weapons because Biden has decided he doesn't want Hamas to be attacked because too many people will be killed. And they're putting out flyers. They're putting out flyers. I say they, Israel, to Rafah, saying, get the hell out. here we come. If they don't leave, I would suggest they're supporting Hamas. And I don't know if the Palestinian people that are supporting Hamas really understand what being attacked really means, what war really is. They've seen it to a degree, but when it's pointed right at you, it's a different story. And those are the things that they're going to have to kind of learn, I guess, or maybe they truly are, because there was a survey of the Palestinian people, and they say, when this is all over, who do you want to govern this Gaza? And they said Hamas. What? Now, maybe they said that because they're afraid they'll all be killed if they don't say that. I don't know. But you have to learn something from that. You have to learn something from what people say. You have to believe what they say. And Hamas ain't good people, guys. Just not. So this weekend was a fascinating weekend. In one particular, based on the show today, and that was this rally in New Jersey. And I'm going to tell you that I called a friend of mine that lives in New Jersey, client of mine, and I said, "Is this area that rally was with Trump? Is it as I don't remember that area. I've been there, but not there. But I've been in New Jersey. I don't remember this big beach area that he did his rally." I said, "Is it as big as it looks like? And could 100,000 people have been there?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said it was a nightmare traffic. People were there. He said people were there from last Wednesday camping out to be at the rally in New Jersey. And these were New York people and New Jersey people and Pennsylvania people, where it's the biggest blue conglomerate you could ever have of Democrats. Wow. Really? So this whole thing occurred. I know some of you probably haven't seen this. So I want to play this. This was on Fox News. And it is just fascinating to listen to this. Watch this and we'll talk about it on the other side.
It was truly stunning, given that I've grown up in New Jersey, knowing that this is a state that hasn't gone blue for a Republican presidential candidate since 1988. Think about that, 36 years ago. That's when Joe Biden first ran for office and then had to drop out because of blatant plagiarism. Remember that.
That little footnote.
Exactly. Lisa Fagan is the spokesperson for Wildwood, New Jersey. She's now saying that more than 100,000 people attended. And you look at the video, it's just endless. And when you were there, you couldn't see all the way to the back. So this is a state, again, Joe Biden won by 16 points in 2020. And the fact that he's able to draw this sort of crowd truly is a testament to the fact that the momentum is behind Donald Trump. The energy is behind Donald Trump right now, even in states where he wasn't competitive in 2020.
Yeah, and obviously people camped out overnight to get into this rally.
Yeah.
And I loved one of the points you made earlier, which was that how happy people are.
Yeah.
And it's something I always see.
They're really happy to be there. It's amazing. We went to a rally, not a Trump rally. Went to a rally years ago. I think, if I remember right, it was McCain. And this was when Sarah Palin was brought in as a VP candidate. And we went to that, and the crowd, I've gone to Democrat crowd events, not these big rallies, but I've gone to events to be there. I've been with friends. I like to watch these things. I like to see these people aren't happy. They're angry, pissed off, just grinding type people. And it's a totally different thing at a Republican event. You look at the things that happened during the Summer of Love in Seattle and all over the country during the riots. These were angry, destructive, burning down people. That doesn't happen with Republicans. Did kind of happen at the Capitol, That shouldn't have happened. But nobody, well, did have one person die, but that because a person just decided to shoot her for no reason at all, as evidence shows, but nobody was indicted. And you just keep seeing these things going on, and you realize there's a flow that's occurring. So that was the Trump rally. And then there's the comment of what Biden did this weekend. This is classic too.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden was in Seattle, and he spoke for 16 minutes to the former head of Microsoft at a party at his home, multimillionaire, elite donors, and then left. So that's your contrast right there. Trump, 100,000 people, speaks for more than 90 minutes.
Yeah, and not to the people. He can't. I said it last week. I don't think there'll be a debate. I really don't. Even though I would think his people are saying, we have to have a debate. If we don't, we're dead. But I think they also know that they can only juice him up so much. But the thing Biden had when he was doing the State of the Union was that he had a script. He had the prompters up there, up on the wall, or not on the wall, but on the stand. And he could be looking at that and be talking about whatever he needed to get back on track when he lost his mind, when he wasn't able to keep on track. A debate, you don't have that. A question is asked, a comment is made by the opposition, being Trump, and then what? And then what? And Biden, as soon as he gets frazzled, which he probably would, there could be a real problem there. I mean, a real problem. They can't continue to put him out there for an hour and a half, for 90 minutes. Joe Biden up against Trump. And I don't want to hear anybody say, well, Trump's almost as old as Biden. It doesn't matter. I know people that are 10, 20 years younger than me that can't argue with me about anything. They don't have it in them. Biden does not have it in him. He's never had to. He was in Delaware running as a senator. Guess what? Nobody ever said, Joe Biden, you're wrong, and made him defend himself. When he lied about his education and he was in the top of the class and he did this and that, yeah, the press said something, but it was never a debate. These debates are a big deal. Yeah, he debated in the VP thing with when Trump was running with Obama, but not with Obama, not Trump, but who was that? I forget because he was so on Romney. But guess what? That was a different time. Biden has gone downhill day after day after day, and they all know that he can't handle it. And if he can't handle it, he's going to look worse, and that's going to push more people over to the Republican side, and they can't afford that. I think he has to do it, truthfully. I don't know if he will. Maybe he will. So that's the show today. Hope I shared some stuff with you that you didn't know, reminded you of the things you did know, and I'd love you to go out and tell some of your friends about what's happening. Two of the big things to me are the evidence issues of staging things with the FBI, January 6th, taking evidence that was exculpatory and just deleting it. And of course, evidence that Alvin Bragg has had that he has deleted so that there can't be any discovery for Trump on the hush money case. All of these things people need to know. Every one of you have Democrat friends, or you're a Democrat. If you're watching this right now, I don't hate you. I want you to know. I want you to know enough to be able to make an intelligent decision. If you still want to vote for Biden, I don't know why you would, but go for it. But be a knowledgeable person. The fact you're here tells me you want to know the truth. We know things are being shuffled under the table. We know things are being deleted. We know that things are not being told. The convenience of not saying things is almost as powerful, is really as powerful as the lie itself. So think about that. Please Like the show, please sign up, subscribe to the show, tell your friends. I will see you tomorrow. Just like always, I'll be here at 1 o'clock Eastern Time to give you more information, give you more news. Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow, 1 o'clock.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.